welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I know it takes a lot to show up to these things, especially during dinner hour. So it means a lot that you guys are here. One of the things we're going to talk about tonight is high stress. Not like you don't know anything about that, right? Tonight's a little bit different though. It's about understanding how stress impacts your gut, of course, because we got to talk about that, right? Cravings, sleep, and energy. But it's also about learning how what you eat and your food can help your nervous system feel safe. And that's really the ultimate goal is if your nervous system feels safe, everything else lines up. That's the trick. So how do you do that? Well, first is to
Mhm.
make really good food. Second is not to lose your shit doing so. So tonight, we're not talking about anything restrictive. We're not talking about fixing your body. There's no fix, there's just practice. Health is a practice, it is lifelong. Sorry, hate to burst your bubble if you didn't know that. So tonight we're going to cook together, we're going to learn together, and we're going to slow things down just enough for your
Mhm.
body to notice them. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Bonnie. I am a holistic nutritionist and an herbalist. I started many, many years ago. 2003, I started as a trainer after losing 100 pounds. Since
Mm.
then, I've gone on to work with many clients who struggle with autoimmune issues, who struggle with stress management. Majority of my clients were in mortgage and real estate, the high stress CEO level. I mean, to understand what that is like is it's mind blowing. You never have a moment's break. And then I went and I became a mom of twins. So now I really understand, I really get it. And I met Terry a little, oh, I think it's almost been 2 years now.
Yeah.
Um, and we clicked right away. And there's a lot of similarities. And we noticed last year working together, doing things like this workshop that you're about to see in this kitchen demo, you making her soup recipe, by the way. If you don't have her book, you need to get her book. The links will be in the show notes. Trust me, just get it. Um, we noticed last year working together that the results of our clients multiplied.
Mhm.
We have been seeing a lot of success, and through workshops like this, we've met amazing people. So that is me. I'm going to shift it over to Carrie because you guys need to hear from her as well.
Yay! Awesome. Well, one of the reasons there's so many reasons why we love doing these things. Like one, it's just a lot of fun and showing how simple like a lot of these things can be. But we like running these workshops so we can give beyond ourselves. Like Bonnie said, this isn't about perfection. Like that is not what we teach at all. So you could see that that's how we work. We talk about progress over perfection all the time. It's not restriction. There's not perfection. There's not adding one more task to your already busy schedule. We work with really busy women and everything feels so overwhelming. Like I just can't add one more thing to the plate. So we're going to show you tonight how simple that this can actually be. Adding that in, right? It's not about fixing, as Bonnie said, there's no miracle pill. Right? It's just simple strategies and simple things that you can do and add into your daily life to support your nervous system, as she mentioned. Like, that's really, really what we want to talk about tonight. We want your nervous system to work with you, not against you. So, that's what we're going to show you how to do. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Carrie Paglarini. I call myself the sugar knockout coach because, yes, I help women with sugar cravings. I'm now board certified. Oh gosh, and I've been helping women for a long time just after the struggles that I went through. So I love sugar, right? I tell people this all the time. I love sugar. Okay. I've eaten so much sugar. I still love sugar, but now I know that it doesn't love me back. But I had a host of health issues, hormonal issues, gut issues. Really, it all stemmed back to the gut once I started cutting back my sugar and figuring out. And so when Bonnie and I met, what she does and what I do pair together so well because sugar cravings and gut health like go hand in hand. Fix the gut and Bonnie's background and my background together, like we can fix the gut and remove stress and remove cravings. That's all the good things that we want to talk about tonight. So that is us in a nutshell. So before we really get into this and start cutting up the veggies and all that good stuff, this is a super simple recipe to make. It's really yummy. It's winter time, right? We want warming foods. I was like, when I first started my health journey, I was like eating salads and all that. Like, that's not really what we want to do. So, a lot of traditional cultures talk about winter is like a cold, damp season. And it's when our energy slows down, right? Right. We're going into like some kind of hibernation. Like we're not bears, but as human beings, like it's cold. We want to be inside. We want to be warming food. Our circulation decreases. Hello, cold hands. That's me, and our digestion weakens. This is just what happens. And if we're eating raw, cold foods, like that really isn't helping, right? It's just adding more stress, more fuel to the fire. And so we want to be eating warming foods. So the first thing that we are going to do to get started is start our pan. So I do everything on the stove. I do not have an Instapot. Bonnie has an Instapot. She's got all the fun things. I do have a crock pot, but we'd be here for, 8 hours. So I'm going to make gonna make this in a regular pot. So the first thing I want to do, so now this recipe calls for coconut oil. I'm actually going to use a little bit of olive oil today, just because that's what I had on hand. So that's another thing. All the recipes in my cookbook and recipes that we talk about, we want it to be things that you already have on hand. There are so many amazing cookbooks out there where there is 5 spices that I'm never going to use again, and I'm going and spending all this money and getting things that I'm never going to use. That's not what we want to do. So I'm going to put some olive oil in here and let that heat up. 2 tablespoons. Okay. So while that's doing, I gotta keep on track or I'll go off completely on a tangent. So from we want to support digestion, and that is going to help support us our stress response and support us emotionally, right? Emotional eating and all that other stuff is something we're going to talk a little bit about today. That's why eating warming foods in the winter, soups like this, is the simplest way to help your stress response, right? Just feel a little bit less stressed after we just came off a really stressful holiday season. So we'll start with that. Start warming up the olive oil, and now we are going to add some aromatics with the theme of warmth and grounding and just gentle support for our nervous system.
Yes. So we're going to add your celery sticks, which, truth be told, I had to run to the store to get celery. This is the
Oh
only thing
no.
I did not have in my house. I did run out of black beans, so I got the black beans there. But normally we have all sorts of good stuff. But I had to
Oh.
go and get celery sticks or celery stalks. So we don't usually carry them in the house. Like we don't
Mm.
have them in here. So you want to make sure all your stuff is ready to be chopped up. I got the saute going in the Instapot because yeah, I'm kind of a kitchen junkie when it comes to things like that. So just chop it all up. It is okay if they're big pieces, if they're little pieces. You want your celery stalks, your onion, green pepper, garlic cloves. Ooh, hey,
Ooh.
fill it out. Do you see this? Do you hear this? Ooh,
No, I didn't, but I just since you said, "Woo," I was like, "Woo, me too." See?
it is.
We're having
Oh,
we're
it's
having
ready.
fun in the kitchen. It's
It
yeah.
is ready. All right.
Oh,
So the
that's
reason we
funny.
call these, let me push my sleeves up. The reason we call these aromatic is because these are the foods that give your dish flavor, but they have some secrets. Okay. These foods can also be found in herbal medicine world. Now, here's what I mean by that. So an onion, it's a prebiotic powerhouse. Now, we were actually talking about prebiotic foods and probiotic foods the other day. And an onion has so many healing components, especially a purple onion. So what you're looking at with this is your adaptogen aromatic. And I know it's weird to talk food being herbal, but it works.
Mhm.
There are a lot of the gut prebiotics in here that not only support gut function, but also your immune system. So, have you heard of onion and honey being infused as a cough syrup, or the practice of throwing a purple onion, a freshly sliced purple onion, near where you breathe, or on the bottoms of your feet when you're fighting the cold. It is one of the more powerful of the foods and the herbs at busting colds out and busting colds out. Next is going to be your garlic. I don't
Mm.
know if I mentioned that before, but your garlic bulb. So garlic is known as the all-around healer. Little known fact: the reason you wear enough garlic around your neck to fight off the vampires is because I don't remember if it was the plague or before that. There was a thought the vampires came out, right? And garlic fought them off. Well, the undead got fought off by the garlic. So the more garlic on your body, the healthier you were, the more apt you were, the safer you were at fighting off the vampire, right? The
Mm.
reason is because your garlic is an all around healer. If you're sick, if you're wonky, if you have allergies up the wazoo, make yourself a nice garlicky anything. Doesn't matter what it is. Make it a garlicky anything. And you've got one of the top herbal antimicrobial on the planet. So you only need 3 cloves on this. Just saying.
Or if you're
But
Italian, you could put in 4. I'm just
you,
saying.
you could put the whole clove in if you really wanted. Um, if you were my husband, you would totally put the whole clove in.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah, him and I can be friends.
Yep, yep. He is part Italian, part Irish, but he was bred and brought up by a single mom through the Italian sides. So, and once
Oh, that's awesome.
once we get all of these aromatic sauteed, what we're gonna do is shift into from instant pot. We're gonna take it from saute to soup.
Ooh.
All right. So now let's talk a little bit about cumin. Something about cumin is that it is a digestive seasoning. So it specifically helps things like gastrina, IBS symptoms, things like crampiness, or the inability to digest a certain food. Sometimes foods are just harder for us to digest than others. And in those cases, cumin actually is really good. Most of the reason it's used in so many of the Hispanic recipes is because the suckers are spicy. I guess it helps you metabolize all those spicy peppers. It's
Oh.
one of the quiet helpers, really is. Now, bay leaf, the last one I wanted to talk about. And I'm gonna chop some pepper up and then I'll throw the bay leaf in. So bay leaf is kind of one of those quiet ones. You think all you do with this is light it up during like the full moon or the new moon, right? But that's not really true. All of these herbs and spices that we use help our body, help our gut metabolize and function. Sorry, I didn't mean to like point a knife at you or anything. Um, they help the digestive function. The stress response lives in your stomach. So this baby creates more of a warming and grounding and calming effect. It's more of a adaptogen relaxant style herb, a
Mm.
calm thing. And you don't, you can put it in one whole leaf, let it all do its thing. And you can take the leaf out if you don't like the flavor of it in food, or you can leave it in there. Your choice. So, and it really, this is these ingredients and the reason behind using these ingredients. You think you're just using food like this, these ingredients are going to taste really good together, but there's more to it than that. So,
Mhm.
before we get too far into cooking, I'm going to spill some science.
Sure. Yeah. So, as we're getting all of this into the pot, we wanted to do some questions and get a baseline. So, the first one that we wanted to ask about was like, let's look at your gut health, like a little snapshot into your gut health. Now, this is not a grade. We're not judging you. This is just data from on a scale from 1 to 10. How healthy do you feel like your gut is? So, if you're like, what are you even talking about right now? So this is what I'm talking about. A 1 is like you have tons of gas, bloating, headaches, constipation, all that stuff. Like I was mentioning, like my health journey. I had migraines, gas issues. Like I was a disaster. Like my gut was a 1 at that point. And then the less that you have of those, I would just scale up from there. So we would love for you to share in the comments
In the comments.
on a scale of 1 to 10 on the comments, and we'll see if we can see them. Yeah, it's really funny, but we're figuring out this whole live school thing. So,
Mhm.
um, so that's what we want to share. I know Bonnie wanted to share some other facts with
Yeah,
you about.
we have some good ones for you guys. So, question: can you name two things that live and work in the gut that
Mm,
are crucial to stress response, immune system function, and basically helping you keep your sanity? Two things. So,
keeping your sanity. I love that
keeping
one.
your sanity.
Yeah, all that. Oh, we need that.
These two things I'm talking about, serotonin and the other emotional and mood regulation hormones. They're also neurotransmitters. They help your brain, they help your gut, gut brain connection. Um, and the second is your immune system.
Mm,
90% of serotonin is made in your gut. 90%. And 80% of your immune system lives in your gut. Fun
I
fact.
love. Yeah, I love that. And that's one of the huge things about gut. And I feel like the immune one is something that we've heard a lot, but the serotonin piece is huge. 90% of your serotonin, your happy hormone. So if your gut's messed up, you're not making enough of that. And then you rely on sugar for happiness. But that's a whole nother conversation. So okay, I have one. What percentage of food that we buy today existed 100 years ago? Now,
Mm.
that's yeah, 100 years ago. So that's we're going back. We're going back and what's happened to food since. So, if anyone wants to throw an answer in there or think on that, this one actually isn't I guess it's surprising and not. So, it's 20%, sorry, it's less than 20%. So
Yeah.
here's a couple things that, shocking or not, I mean, it's 100 years ago. Food was very different 100 years ago. So I wanted to share a couple of things that we've completely just modified and crossbred and are very different than the way they were naturally before human beings got involved and started messing with them. So one is Brussels sprouts, which I know, like, my son thinks Brussels sprouts are super bitter. Well, in the 80s, they decided, yes, they were too bitter and that we needed to modify them so that they would be sweeter. So I would love to know what Brussels sprouts actually tasted like before we got in there and started messing with them. Because I personally love Brussels sprouts, but I wouldn't call them sweet by any means.
Mm-mm.
So sweeter for sure. The next one is modern wheat, which I'm sure is not surprising, but we started messing with it to make it easier for baking, right? It was a lot harder. Like our poor ancestors, our grandmas were like, it was hard for them to be cooking with wheat in its natural form. So we went ahead and modified that too, right? We modified that so it's easier to bake, not necessarily better for digestion, just easier to cook with. The next one is corn. Oh my gosh, this one is funny to me. So
Yeah.
corn, and if you've ever seen pictures of what corn like used to look like and what it looks like now, one, not only does it just look completely different, But that was also bred to make it super sweet, right? Because human beings, we love sweet food, to make it super, super sweet. And that's why they started making high fructose corn syrup and using corn for a whole bunch of other things because it's been modified to have more sugar and starch than it did 100 years ago. Apples. Now we love apples. So we're not bashing apples, but understand that the apples that we have today are sweeter, they have less fiber, and some of them are huge. Like when I get the organic apples, people make fun of me because they're half the size of non-organic apples, and packaged foods, of course. So a lot of packaged processed foods, they are marketed and everything that is put in them engineered for cravings and shelf life. The longer they're on the shelf and the more you crave and buy them, like the better their profit margins are. So, I mean, obviously in a perfect world, you can't stay away from you would stay away from packaged foods. Um so that is another thing that is added to it. So we don't like to label foods good or bad. It's just that these things behave differently in the body than the way that nature intended them to be before we started messing around with them. And when foods are ultra processed or bioengineered, right, they just hit the bloodstream faster and our blood sugar rises quicker. When our blood sugar rises quickly and drops quickly, it wreaks havoc on our nervous system. It gives us anxiety. We feel like we have a lot of anxiety. And that's what we see with a lot of our women, right? So the way to combat that, if you're having foods that are rich in fiber, beans, and protein, this helps stabilize blood sugar. You put in some healthy fats, olive oil, coconut oil, it can help stabilize your blood sugar. When that happens, you have a calmer stress response. You're more equipped to deal with stress because your blood sugar isn't jumping all over the place. Because these spikes do feel like anxiety. And that is, we talk about this quite a bit actually in our program because we work with women who are busy and stressed out. So we help minimize that. Okay. So now that we are back to sauteing this up in our pot, I need to make this a little bit hotter. So we are going to go ahead and add our beans. So I have black beans and pinto beans because that's what I had. That's what we had. So, like I said, I want you to see that we are using simply what we have. So, you want to add that to the pot. And then we are go. Ooh, it smells so good already. We are going to add our broth. So I actually am going to use a chicken broth and it's actually a bone broth that I made from a whole chicken. So you can use that. You can use if you're a vegan or vegetarian, you can go ahead and just use um vegetable broth. But this is something I made that was in my again, this was in my freezer that I made. So I'm like, let's go ahead and pour this in. I always like to make my soups with chicken broth, but it's completely up to you or whatever you have on hand. Okay. So then once everything is in the pot, we are going to cover it and let it simmer for about 20 minutes. So I will get that in a second, but um again, we want to just talk about why we put certain things in here. So beans have fiber and protein. They help stabilize blood sugar, right? Again, we want to stabilize our blood sugar so that we have less of a stress response. And the broth is warming. Like this, like I said, this is something that I made from it's like my own chicken stock, but I made bone broth from chicken bones. And so it has lots of minerals, there's lots of hydration, and it basically signals like safety to the body. There's no stress, right? Yes, we are in cold season and it's cold, but we're staying warm and taking care of ourselves so we can lower our stress response. So I want to tell a quick client story here. So there's a woman, Kayla, that is in our 90 days, and she came to us and she's, like I said, super stressed, right? Ladies are busy. She was bloated, exhausted. She was craving sugar constantly. And she was trying to eat well. And she felt like she really was. She was doing all the right things. Like, I'm eating well and I'm still craving sugar. Right. And she was like, why am I doing this? And then she's like calling herself an emotional eater. So maybe you can relate to that. Like, oh my gosh, I'm doing all the right things. I still crave sugar. I know that's not good. Like, why is this still happening? So basically, stress was driving all of her food choices for all the reasons that we just talked about, right? Gut health, just simple biology, and her blood sugar was all over the place. So yes, she was craving sugar. So yeah, she was craving sugar. So the 90 days is very strategic, but we make small shifts as we go. So it's not this huge thing all of a sudden, like a massive cleanse. So we made the small shifts with her. We started, right? We start with warm meals, like the meals that we're talking about today. You don't have to live on salad and like chicken. Like, yeah, no, right? Eating regular, right? Eating regularly. Intermittent fasting is a whole nother conversation, but we are busy ladies. Please stop skipping breakfast, lunch, unless that is strategically in your plan. You need to be eating. Okay. We need fuel. And we started making sure she was having protein and fiber at every meal. That and helping support her stress, 90 days made a world of difference for her, right? Less cravings, anxiety. Like she couldn't even believe how now anxiety is not going to go away. I wish we could tell you that we're going to make your anxiety go away. Poof, like I would do it for you in a heartbeat. I would do it for everybody. But it was just a lot less than it had been. And then everything else felt manageable for her. So her nervous system was just overwhelmed. It was just overwhelmed, and we just needed to support that so that she could thrive, which she is now. So, as we're talking about stress and all that good stuff, take a second and what is your like stress level? How are you feeling right now? Are you hanging out in the kitchen, like cooking? Does cooking feel stressful for you? And this isn't, again, another judgment or grade. It's just awareness. And awareness is a huge piece of the puzzle that we also teach our ladies.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you're sitting there thinking that you don't really feel anything, the whole I can't calm down even though I try. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I'm good. I'm good. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't feel the ups. I don't feel the downs. Right. So you're not on this roller coaster that a lot of people talk about. You can still have an overreactive stress response system. And what that means is you've actually gotten to the point where everything's shut down. Okay. And maybe now this isn't the most relaxing time for you. Like when I go on to workshops, there's no way. If you ask me, I'd be like, I'm not stressed. What are you talking about? Like you're doing all the work. I'm good. So, fun fact for you, got a question. We eat all the nutrients possible, right? Let's pretend for just a minute you've eaten all the nutrients possible. But what are we deficient in?
Mm,
We cannot absorb the fat soluble vitamins if we don't have this thing. And the fat soluble, for those of you that don't know, A, D, E's, and K's. Okay. What do you need in your body to be able to absorb these from the foods that you're eating? Anybody
mhm. I
know the answer?
do.
Omegas. Omegas. And omegas in our food, and part of the reason we're talking about that is because of what we have in front of us. What's in my Instapot right now is chicken broth that I actually made today. So I got a rotisserie this weekend in anticipation that I was going to be the like not the procrastinator that I am. And I was going to make my chicken bone broth yesterday. It was going to be perfect for today. Well, my Instapot has been on overdrive today. It made the chicken broth out of the rotisserie carcass. I've got chicken back here that's left over from the rotisserie that we can throw into this soup, plus all the ingredients that are already in it. One of the things that these foods all share are omegas.
Mm,
You can eat all the nutrients in the world, but without having enough omega in your system, and we're not talking about 3, 6, 9. Don't think about the numbers. Omegas are like magnesium. Magnesium, there are multiple different varieties that you actually need. Omegas, you need a multitude of varieties of them. And if you don't have enough in your system, your body can't fully use them. So you're kind of throwing some of it away. And when when you think about your brain and you think about all the nutrients you're pulling in from your supplements, okay, let's start there. Think about your brain cells like parking stalls. Okay. You can park in all these places. You can. But can you get out of the car, in the car? Can you go and do what you need to do? Are you parked and someone pulls right in next to you and you can't get your door open? That's kind of what's happening when you consume all of the foods, but you don't have enough omegas in your system, or your body's not absorbing it as well as it should be. Okay. And I mean, there's there's some flexibility with the omegas. Like if you don't have enough threes, but you have enough sixes, your body will take care of you. It will make it all work. The damaged oils and the trans fats that fill our food system have basically made it really difficult to get those omegas into our system and to make them absorbable by our bodies. Everything gets sluggish when that happens. Your memory, your brain power, your energy, your ability to sleep well. So, what we've got here is not just a nice little cozy meal, it's actually nervous system support. It's blood sugar stabilization. I mean, Carrie's got the whole book of it, right? But it's not just these recipes in her book. It's not just the recipe we're making tonight or in any of our other workshops. You want nutrient absorption from your food. And in order to do that, you want to stick with foods that they don't just feed you, they actually help your body function. Okay. The way it was designed to.
Yeah, such a good point, and I love that you said that because a lot of times people, and I used to do this, I used to be totally guilty of this in the 90s, right? Like I would be taking like a vitamin D, and then I would take a separate, like I wasn't taking any of them together and with the right thing, so they definitely were not being absorbed. So if you're taking a vitamin D supplement and your vitamin D is still low, this might be why, right? So yay, I'm so glad you brought up omegas. Okay, so let's do another one. This is a good one. What percentage of Americans are deficient in omegas? Not even breaking down, like you said, to the 369, just how many are deficient. This one is crazy. Okay. So if we're talking about just omega-3 fatty acids, when you're thinking about salmon and all that, all the goodies that we've heard about, 98% of Americans are deficient in omega-3 fatty acids, which is crazy. And like Bonnie mentioned, like this is good for brain and nerve cells. Like we absolutely need this. And for our neurotransmitters. Like this helps regulate our neurotransmitters, the serotonin, the dopamine, the things that we were talking about. It also helps reduce inflammation. That's why they talk about omega-3s so much right now, which helps with anxiety and mood, and cell membrane flexibility, right? So some of the things that Bonnie had mentioned, right? Like we need our brain to focus for memory, um, even for stress response and increased, feel like we have increased anxiety when we aren't taking these omegas. Now, people ask about omega-6, and omega-6 are just easier to get in the diet. There's just so many more of them. And so it seems there's less of a balance of omega-3 and omega-6. But even people who eat well can often be deficient because chronic stress just increases omega demand. We just need more omegas when we're stressed. Like we said, we just got off a stressful holiday season and like life is stressful.
Yeah, it really, I mean, it is. And you really feel stress afterward. I know you
Hmm.
think you feel it during, but it's after the fact. Have you ever noticed after a stressful time, very stressful time, when it's over and you start to relax and you're like, all right, life's getting good now, all of a
Hmm.
sudden you get sick or you feel like you have the flu, you're stuffy, allergies are getting to you. So I'm going to tell you about one of our other clients, Ryan, part of the 90 days. So when she came in, this was one of her stories. Is she noticed that when she was stressed, had a stressful day at work, the whole next week she felt like she was sick, and this was a chronic thing. It was going back and forth. I mean, she was barely getting through her day without 50 million things in the afternoon to keep her jumping
Yeah.
and keep her
Yeah.
going. Now, granted, she worked in a preschool, so she needs a lot of energy, you guys. She needs a lot of energy. Her fatigue was off the charts. Multiple symptoms were struggling. And right before we actually started the 90-day, because she was in our first cohort for the 90-day. Right before we started that, she did some lab work, bottom of the barrel, every single functional level. She just had your general lab work done. Everything was bottom of the barrel, which explains why her stress response was so dramatic. And as she went through and we started looking at some of these things, we did start supplementing immediately and started including specific foods for those nutrients, specifically vitamin D's, vitamin K, and omegas. That was one of the ones that I insisted that she make sure she get into her system. Okay. Within 3 to 4 days of doing that, I walked in to get the boys because she was working in the preschool the boys worked at. And as I was walking in, she stopped me and was so excited to tell me that she had not had anything caffeine related, sugar related that afternoon. We hadn't even started the 90-day yet. And she was talking about how her energy stayed with her all day. It felt sustainable to her. It felt like she could do this and it was wonderful and it was great. And she was so excited to see what was coming next. And things just really got better after that. And the biggest message that she took away from that is that her body wasn't in failure, which is that was her concern, is that everything was failing
Mm,
her. She was young. What was going to happen? If this is how she was before she'd even turned 30,
yeah.
what's the rest of her life going to be like? I mean, how many people have said that? And
Mhm.
that's young. That's very young. And I don't care how old you are, you should never say that. You
Yeah.
should never say that. So now here she is, definitely more than a year later. Um, Lab reports are all middle of the line, all healthy across the board. Everywhere, every time she has another one done, I get a phone call and she's like, "Oh my gosh, it's staying in the middle." It shocks her. It's great. It is the most wonderful response to someone improving their life in that way.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that because that's like sometimes it's things that are just missing, right? And how quickly the body responds when you start giving it the things that it needs. Like the body wants to be well, it wants to heal itself, and it can if you actually give it the things it needs to heal itself and what you're deficient in, right?
Right.
So this is just about information. It's more about awareness. You don't need to memorize all this. We just wanted you to be made aware of these things. So,
So, this is one of the fun facts that I was excited to share with you. Um, are fish the only way you get omegas? And do they actually produce omegas? Do you know the answer to this?
hmm, hmm,
Fish accumulate omegas from the food that they eat, and they're stored in, pause for effect, your fat cells, just like us. So there's a couple of different things that happen along the way. So fish go and eat the algae and marine um, vegetation are a great source of omegas. Then the omega is extracted by their body and it's put in their fat cells. And then what happens to get the supplements is the supplement companies or the origin company, I don't know, whoever does it, they pull the fat cells to get the omegas.
hmm,
And then that's how you get fish oil supplements.
hmm.
And before anybody tells me that krill is the best way to get omegas, well, yeah, it is. It's a fatty fish. It's one of the fattier fishes in the
Yeah.
ocean, which is why they use it. It's why it's so effective because the omegas they pull out of their fat cells are
Mm.
extremely potent. So feel free to keep eating the fish oil. You are more than welcome to if that's what works for you. Not Not going to say a word. But that's why in diet world, in conventional diet world, you are recommended to eat more fish, to eat
Yeah.
omegas and supplements like that that are made from fish because the fish eat the food, they metabolize it, and then it's extracted from the fat cells. So it's easier for our body to absorb.
Mm,
Of course, that's pretty easy to absorb too. So,
yeah. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I love it. So yeah, what and actually one of the supplements that we recommend is actually just cutting out the fish. It's just getting it straight from the algae source. It's great for a lot of folks that we know it's vegan. It has all the omegas. And it creates like more balance because it's in the right amount. All of this backed by science. So this isn't really about more supplementation. It's just again to make you awareness, but also using the right support intentionally. So that's something that we always recommend to folks as well, because when your body's under stress, the best nutrition and supplements like won't work the way they are supposed to because you're under stress and you're just not digesting the way that you should. So when we are stressed, right, we're in the fight or flight response, right? Their digestion slows. The body is like, we don't need to be digesting anything right now. We need muscle to move, to flee, or to fight. Now, when we are resting, when our digestion is turned back on, that is rest and digest, right? The complete opposite of stress. So when you're stressed, you are not digesting properly. You're not breaking down food the way that you should because your body thinks it's in danger. And again, like we said with your gut, this shows up as acid reflux, constipation, bloating, anxiety loops, right? If you're having a lot of anxiety, you can go back to gut health. And a lot of mental health professionals are actually starting to understand that and are starting to work with people to fix the gut. So, we're talking about absorption. That's really what we want you to keep in mind and how this all works together in combination food and supplementation, right? You can't just out supplement a bad diet. It's not going to happen.
yeah, and you can't live on supplements either. You
Yeah.
actually do need whole foods because
Hmm.
the supplementation only goes so far. So we've hit the point where you wanna take your spoon and you wanna mash up the beans a little bit. You're trying to create a thickness to the soup. Now, if you prefer your beans whole, don't feel like you need to mash them up. Part of the reason I'm suggesting you do this is because it actually helps and eases digestion. You know the reputation that beans have when you eat them, you chew, right? It's
Yeah.
just the whole thing. There's a funny song that goes around the kids, but I can't remember what it is at the moment.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
one
Boys
of
and
the
fart songs. Yeah.
right?
Right.
One of the things that helps is just to break up the food a little bit. You're not having to masticate it as much, which is just
Hmm.
chewy. So you're when it hits your digestive system after your esophagus, now it's actually partially masticated, right? It's already started to break down. And with the heat
Hmm.
that's in the pot as well, that will help it break down even further.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so now we'll add in cilantro. Now, some of my ladies who make this or bought my cookbook will put the whole bunch of cilantro in. I don't love cilantro that much, but I wrote it into the recipe because I know people do. And I've actually been putting mine in as Bonnie's been talking so that it breaks down a little bit more. But you could go ahead, pick out as much as you want of that. Um, and I just like to chop it just roughly and just pop it in there. And as much as I don't like cilantro, but fresh herbs really do help aid in digestion. And it does bring the whole dish together, even just a little bit. Even a little bit is good for me versus the whole thing. But like I said, so now avocado. This is where like all of this comes together. So this is our healthy fat. Again, we are supporting our brain cells, nervous system regulation, sugar, blood sugar, right? So that we are feeling less anxiety as little as we can, right? Warm food, healthy fats, all that good stuff. So you want to slice this and put this on top. So if you're ready, you can scoop some of this into your bowl and then add some avocado on top. I like to add avocado to almost anything just because it really does help get those healthy fats in and it helps you feel fuller longer. So go ahead and do that. So this This is really what we wanted to teach you is like this is something simple that you can make. It's filling. It has all the things you need: protein, fiber, healthy fat, nourishing your body, right? And helping your body slow down by using biology to our advantage.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what we shared tonight, it is really just one small piece of a much bigger picture. And it
Mhm.
doesn't mean that that picture involves a lot of different tasks. That's not what we do. Neither one of us would survive. We would get lost in life.
Yeah, we're just as busy as you are, if you didn't know. Bonnie's got twins, 5-year-old twins, and I'm a single mom. So it's
Yeah,
not, yeah, we're not hanging out like, meditating every day and hanging out for hours. We're
no,
we're busy too.
we got stuff going on. But understanding how your stress, your blood sugar, and your nervous system all impact your health and specifically your gut, your digestion, as well as your absorption of nutrients, vital nutrients, it's powerful. And real change happens when you put all of these pieces together. So we have a masterclass coming up in a couple of weeks. And we talk about this. We talk about cravings and the gut and how it loops together and how something as simple as a black bean soup, which I'm waiting for the steam to stop so I don't bust the top up. Um, and then I can try
Explode
this
all over your
soup,
kitchen.
right?
Oh
We don't
my
need to explode
gosh.
anything more in my kitchen.
Mm.
So in the masterclass, we actually take this a step further. We're not cooking. This workshop, we love doing the Love Your Gut workshop because we get to cook and we get to share easy things with you. And I know we were talking through a lot of it, but legitimately, this is a recipe that could take you maybe 5 minutes. Put everything in the pot. You could put it into a crock pot and let it simmer for the day while you're out. And then you come home and the house smells amazing, which helps your digestive system. Goes into the olfactory system and then your digestion starts. That's why you get the like salivation or
Mm.
your salivor. Mm. Your mouth gets watery. There we go. It has been a day with the boys, you
Oh my
guys.
god. I love those words where you're like, I just can't say that word right now. And
I
that's
can't.
okay.
I'm done.
It's just, yeah, I'm done. I'm done.
So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
really is the next popular step. We look at how stress patterns affect digestion, mood, and cravings. We look at what blood sugar stability changes anxiety and your sleep. It can improve
Mhm.
your sleep so dramatically. And we also
Yeah.
look at how the nervous system drives so many mystery symptoms. I mean, there are more than 800 at last count autoimmune illnesses on record. More than 800 because their symptoms are all different. So there's all these mystery
Yeah.
symptoms that people are dealing with now.
That's
And
crazy.
we talk about what you can do if food, like what we're talking about here, just isn't enough. Sometimes
Mhm.
you need to take another little step. And it's pretty popular with a lot of people to go from this workshop into our masterclass to learn a little bit more, to get
Yes,
clear.
absolutely. I'm really excited about that. Because we are all about education, right? And taking what
Yes.
works for you and using that. Not what works for me, not what works for Bonnie. And going to use that. And that's what we teach a lot in our 90 days too. It's really what works for you. And so we take all the things that we talked about and figure out how that fits into your life. So please come to our master class. It is on the 28th. We would love to have you, and we are really going to dive into, like Bonnie said, the mood loop, emotional eating, all of that stuff. And if you come to the master class, we'd love to see you. If you're like, oh, I'm more, and this 90-day thing sounds really interesting, please reach out to us. We'd love to talk more with you as well. Some no pressure chat, just tell you a little bit more about it. So, um, yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for coming. We are going to turn the recording off in just a moment, and it's taking my Instapot a minute to stop the steaming.
Mm,
Um, but
and
it
I'm over
smells
here
amazing.
eating.
I
I'm
have
like,
it.
this is so good.
Yeah, let me open it yet. So once that's done, I will
Mhm.
actually put a picture of it, of mine, as the cover
Mm,
photo on the replay, so you guys can actually see what mine looked like because I'm excited to try this. But
yay.
it is taking forever. So we're gonna go and move on to Q&A. And when we move on to Q&A, we always stop the recording. So if you're part of these live, you will get to be a part of the Q&A. If you watch the replay and you have any questions whatsoever, DM us either inside this app or reach out to us through Facebook or however you met us. Oh my gosh. Yours looks
My
so good.
It's like steaming, can you see that?
I can
Oh,
see
that's
that.
so funny.
And to those of you cooking with us, you know, have dinner, go eat, enjoy, have fun,
Yes.
and thank you so much for joining us. We
Thank you so
appreciate you
much.
guys.